Good morning. Welcome. It's 9:01, and so we'll call the meeting to order. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. I don't know if we need to say for the record who else present. Okay. So we'll get started. Are there any changes to the agenda from anyone?
None.
Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez.
Second by Flores.
Thank you, Councillor. Are we commissioners? Councillor Flores. It's been moved and seconded. Can we have a vote, please?
Board Member Flores?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Board Member Gandara?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes.
Thank you.
Board member, that helps. That helps me call everyone the right thing. Thank you. I would entertain.
Madam Chair,
go ahead.
sorry, I did want to make a note. I think Ms. Ward is sitting in for, are you sitting in for Mr. Macias today? So being that she's our third member from the county, can we also have her on the record as a voting member?
Yes.
Absolutely.
She's not an ex officio. She's taking over as County Manager Macias as our third member from the county.
Okay, so Board Member Ward? Yes. Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Board
No
Member
problem. I
Sanchez.
just wanted to clarify. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we're on to the minutes. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, Gandara.
Any discussion or amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, if we can have a vote, please.
Board Member Ward? Yes. Board Member Flores?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Board Member Gandara?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have reports and presentations. I think first are from the Coalition for Pets and People. We have Susan Peterson. Yes, please. Come on up if you're up for giving your presentation, and please state your name for the record, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Here. It's
You can make the desk go down and the mic go down. There you go. You got it.
might be loud enough already. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Susan Peterson.
Speak a little bit more into the mic, please.
Oh, all right. Not as loud as I thought.
Yeah, thank you.
How's that?
I think that's good.
I think that's good. Thank you.
I can hear you, but I don't think I'm the best.
Do you have, you don't have a presentation? Okay,
No, I'm just talking.
it's all you. Go for
That's
it.
that's
We
what
defer to you. Please go ahead, Susan.
Okay. My sister Deborah and I have the Two Hearts, Four Paws Refuge. We are in Radium Springs, and gosh, we've been rescuing now most of our lives. So in 2011, we decided to build a facility. And so we built we call it our barn, and it's got 14 indoor-outdoor kennels. So then we decided we could be a real rescue. And so in 2014, we got our 501c3. And so now we're a nonprofit. And so we started off with the bang, and we've been full ever since. So we do adopt some out. We've gone to PetSmart for the past several years till COVID. But it turns out that now we used to help the shelter, let me say that. We used to help the shelter. I could pull from there, and we would transport or keep them and try to adopt them. But then we started taking in more strays and dogs that their owners had passed. So in a way, we're trying to keep the dogs out of the shelter instead of trying to, take them there and then get them back. So we have several older dogs now, and so we don't have a big turnover, so we can't help a lot right now. We just take in some strays, bad emergencies. We have one dog with cancer, so we're just keeping her comfortable, and we have a couple that have bitten somebody, and they're great dogs, but a liability for adoption, so we just keep them. So we're actually an old folks home for dogs, but we still come and take some. We have the ones that their owners passed. We'll keep them because it's traumatic for them to be adopted. So we do have some that we have taken to Albuquerque to the Paws and Stripes, and they've been accepted into their program, so they help veterans. So that's a good thing. The fact that we can't really take in a lot of dogs because we don't have a lot of movement, and we don't do cats. We're not set up for cats. But we try to help the community. So if someone needs help with vaccinations, if someone needs vet help, we've helped a lot of people with vet bills. We've helped people spay and neuter their pets. If we have any money at all, then we help the community. We've given out dog houses, crates. We've gone to their homes and helped the fences and the kennels and things. So we're more into that kind of thing. If we have extra food, if someone needs dog food, we'll supply that. We'll supply cat food. So, that we're hoping as dogs transition, we can help more with the shelter and everyone else, because there's so many strays. And so that's mainly what we do now. We're not so much actively saving, but we'll keep the ones we have. We have 5 acres and in Radium Springs, and we have 3 acres that are fenced in with several yards. So they're not stuck in the kennels. They're out at least twice a day to play. And the ones that get along, they all play together. So it's not a real home, but it's pretty close to a home. And we live there, so we're there all the time. So we plan to help out as much as we can, eventually maybe get back to PetSmart doing adoptions if the COVID is going to let us go. So that's mainly what we do. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I at one point you said we aren't helping in this way, but I recognize that it takes a village, and it's fun, like what you do is really important, and connecting people to resources and being a resource who just wants to help. It takes a village, a pretty big village, and so I just want to say how appreciative we are that you guys are there with your own little sort of village of critters. So thank you for coming and presenting and talking about this and letting folks know. And I would assume that you have a donation page set up if you want to share your website.
Yes, we've been very fortunate with, once we got our 501c3, with a lot of donations. We have a lot of people that support us, which is, wonderful, because we're bigger than we thought we would be, and there's just the 2 of us, and it's a long enough way out there. We don't have a lot of volunteers, but we get it done. We get everybody spayed. As soon as we get someone, make sure they're spayed and neutered. We get their shots. We're always at the vet, so we take care of them the best we can. And, the main thing is helping other people because times are tough. Mm-hmm. And if someone needs medicine, if we've got it, we'll take it, or we'll help them get it. I just think it's important to help everybody right now and, forever. But yeah. Well, I appreciate you, and
Are there any questions from the board members?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and for your presentation and for all the work. And I agree with Chair Karan about it takes a village. And so to know that you're out there taking care of our older animals is I'm so incredibly grateful. So thank you so much. Please pass on my gratefulness to your sister. Thank you.
I will. It's hard for the two of us to go anywhere.
I
so
know. I absolutely understand, but thank you for being here today.
It's a labor of love. It's a labor of
Yes,
love.
of course.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions? Okay. Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you so much, Susan, for everything you and your sister do. I definitely agree with the chair and Councilor Gandara. And I would also, what is your website so that people can go and make a donation?
Right now, we just use Facebook. We have a Facebook page for our rescue, and we've got a donation button there. And we had a website, but the money needed to go to the dogs instead of the website. So, and everyone's on Facebook, so we use that. Sometimes in the past, we've had fundraisers and things like that, but COVID changed so much that, we'll see, maybe we'll get back to normal.
Okay.
But
Well, keep us posted on the fundraisers. And thank you again. And thank you, Madam Chair.
oh, sure. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. Board Member Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I thank you, Councilor Flores. I think that was, I'm sorry. No problem.
I'm very new at this, so.
No problem. We appreciate, one of the things that we've enjoyed, I think, working with the Coalition for Pets and People has been being able to actually hear directly from the community partners. And so I want to say, thank you also for coming and telling us, because I think we get so much more, not just from the questions we ask, but from understanding, how you provide the services to the community, what you're doing. I mean, it takes a lot. I think as Chair Karan had mentioned, it takes a village, and especially that's what we see, because I think the ASCMV plays a big part in that, but without our community partners, God, they play an extremely important part. So I appreciate everything you do. Thank you for coming out. And I appreciate Councilor Flores, because I was curious as to how people in the community can help or find out more about what you do. So it's at least going to the Facebook page. And I guess, is that where, if you go back to PetSmart, that would be the best place, or you'll be posting that information on your Facebook page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Awesome. But thank you so much for coming out and sharing all the information. Like I said, I appreciate I know you said this is new, but I said that's part of the fun of this, is that we get to hear directly from our community partners. So thank you so much for all you do.
It is a good idea, I think, for you to know who's out there, and everybody. There's so many rescues now, and everybody has kind of their own certain specialties. So it is good to know.
And I think, and I don't know, I'll throw this out there. I mean, is there anything else you can see and how you can partner with the ASCMV, or how the ASCMV might be able to partner with you?
I currently, because we would like to get the dogs out of there that we can, but right now we don't know. We don't have a place to put them. That's what we would like to do, and even if we could get room and take the dogs temporarily that are being transported, there's a big need for that, and we would love to do that. But
No, very good. And I know, like, with COVID, as you mentioned, that kind of really affected the operations for everybody.
For everybody.
But I think that's where, I think hopefully, my hope is that you feel comfortable enough to reaching out to the board if you have ideas, suggestions. That way, I think when we hear directly from, like I said, our community partners, we get a lot more on how we can continue to work with the ASCMV and with our community partners.
yeah, it's true. It was a great idea.
So thank you so much for coming out, and best wishes.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You did a really good job. We really are so glad to hear from you and really appreciate you being here. Please come back anytime.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it?
Thank you so much.
Can I go? Am I done?
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, that's Susan Peterson from Two Hearts, Four Paws Animal Rescue, and you can find them on Facebook. So I do want to give a quick shout out to the idea of prevention of animals getting into the shelter. I think that's part of what we're thinking about here. And in particular, I know that this is a morbid topic, but I'm a public health person, so I'm always thinking about death. If you are thinking about your animals, I urge you to consider what will happen to them, and think about a plan for your animals in the unfortunate case that you pass on. And so when I wrote my will recently, I added in a donation to a community partner, and they sort of have a plan to take in animals in that situation, and I have support for that written into my plans for death. So morbid, but I think that understanding why animals end up at the shelter or in community partners and what that means for the animals in our own lives is really important. So it's a step you can take to, every one of us can take that step to prevent animals from going into the shelter. So, okay, thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it. Up next are the city and county ACO reports. So I will defer to you all. Again, please share your name, and for the record, please welcome. I think you have I think you guys have a presentation?
Yes, sure.
I think so. Okay, so you're good with that, or do you need? Yeah, I don't think it's number 2.
Maybe it's
Is
that
it?
one.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Brian Halsey. I'm the caseworker for Donana County Animal Control. I'll be giving the presentation for our monthly for January of 2022. For this month, we had 266 reported stray animals. We had 182 stray animals that we were able to pick up out in the field. Out of those 182 animals, we had 88 stray cats and 94 stray dogs picked up. We also had 14 sick or injured animals that were in the county that we were able to get. Those consisted of 6 cats and 8 dogs. We also had 13 owner surrender animals this month for January. None of them were cats, and all of them were dogs this month. This is our 4-year comparison chart for the county. As you can see on the far left, it's going to be a little vague just because it's the start of the new year, but it'll start to get filled in throughout the year. And here's our 4-year field return to owner comparison chart. For January of 2022, we had 27 RTOs, which was up from last year of the 16. For our additional animals picked up, we had 7 welfare holds, and that could be anything from if an officer needs assistance, if they arrested someone and they had animals in the vehicle or something like that, or someone just needed help with the animal, we would take them to the Animal Service Center under a welfare hold. We had 16 shelter quarantines at the Animal Service Center. We had 5 home quarantines. We had 0 court hold. That's where we keep our live evidence in case we need them for the January. For live evidence, we currently have 6 animals in our live evidence facility waiting on the judicial process to see what's going to go on. And we had 0 rabies submissions for January. This is our districts that we have. Each district has certain areas that are in those districts. We keep that up in case anybody has questions with it. This next slide, this is the animals picked up by district for January. So that way we could kind of see what our hot spots are for that month, and we could kind of see where everything's projected. Again, this is for per district for the cats that we were able to pick up. And it just kind of breaks it down per district so we could see which areas we're getting more cats from for that month and for the year. Again, this is for the dogs per district. For our animals, for owner release, we had 7 aggressive animals. They were just getting aggressive for multitude of reasons. Either they were getting more aggressive towards pets, towards family members, towards people that were walking around the streets. We had 1 vicious. That's the act of actually trying to attack another animal or something along those lines. We had 1 person that was unable to care for the dog. We had 1 that killed livestock. We had 2 for health issues, and the health issues were the dog's issues, just getting older, getting sick, things like that. And then we had 1 quarantine, and it was an owner surrender, and that was for White Sands Missile Range. So we ended up taking that in for them. And do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Officer. Board Member Sanchez and then Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Halsey, I just was curious, when you looked at the numbers for cats and dogs, I noticed that in particular cats in District 2, there were 51 that were picked up, and I didn't know, I mean, that's such a huge, the disparity between all the other districts. I didn't know if there was a particular case or a reason why there was such a large number.
From what I've noticed from going through the stats and everything, we have several people in District 2 right now that are currently actively trapping to get cats away from their property for reasons of being, they're allergic, they're doing property damage, or they just don't want cats on their property.
Okay. Thank you. And then in District 3, I think the same question except with dogs. I mean, we had 29 dogs, you know, compared to, I think, with what's up, District 4 had 16. Was there any particular thing that we saw within that District 3 that drove that number?
Usually it's District 4 that we usually see more of the strays in. I couldn't tell you for sure why we had more in District 3 in January than we normally did. Usually it's District 4 is where we see the most. But I couldn't tell you why we have more in January than we did.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Halsey. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I see, did you want to add something, or did you have a question, Marion?
Yes, if I may, I'm just going to add to the District 2 on the number of cats that were picked up to that. We do have a couple of, like Officer Halsey was saying, we do have a couple of cases in District 2 alone where we have some stray cats. So we have a resident, and I think we talked about it at the last board meeting, where this resident lives close to the river area, and they're hoarding, well, they're not hoarding, they have a neighbor who died, and that neighbor used to feed cats. And so they're trapping a lot because they don't want the cats in the area. And so we've been going out there numerous times. I think the number that we ourselves have gone out there to close to 40 times ourselves picking up cats for this individual and the neighbors. And the shelter has gone and taken the cats back out there after they've been fixed. So that increases our number on here. You're going to see our numbers picked up because of those individual residents themselves. So you might see a hot spot in an area of cats going up, and it's for those individual reasons. So you'll see that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board Member Flores?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had similar questions as Board Member Sanchez, and I do have a question for Mary Lou. So Mary Lou, the cats, the cats that were being taken care of, the ones that are being taken to be spayed, neutered, are they then returned to the site where they were picked up, or would that then change insofar as, I mean, how, yeah, do you have statistics or data that show the numbers going down after a certain event, like spaying, neutering? Thank you.
So that individual case itself shows us responding to a cat in a trap because that individual's calling for a cat in a trap. We pick up the cat in the trap. Our contract is to take it to the Animal Services Center, where in turn, they take that cat, they're fixing that cat, they're spaying, neutering, microchipping that cat, they're taking it back out to that resident and releasing it. That person doesn't want that cat back within that area. That's the place we talked about last month where it's like within 100 yards from the river. And so they don't want the cat back, so they set traps out again, and we're trapping, and it's just a circle. Yeah, and we're just going back and forth. And the shelter keeps returning them, and then we're going back and forth. So you will see the numbers on some of these areas increase because of that.
Thank you so much, Mary
You're
Lou.
welcome.
And so that explains the high, well, that's one reason why you have high numbers in District 2. So my question is, where is District 2, Mr. Halsey, and where is District 3?
So
Oh, I see.
There you go. So District 2 mainly is Radium Springs, Fair Acres, and Donana area. And then District 3 is over on the East Mesa by Butterfield, the Oregon, the White Sands Missile Range, the East Mesa, Holman, that area.
So it looks like it's in areas where the human population isn't as dense as in other areas. It
For the
appears to
most
me
part,
just-
Donana is pretty populated as far as what we usually have to go out there for. But the rest of it, like Radium Springs, that's pretty far out there, so.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Board Member Gandara.
Thank you, Chair Coran. Thank you so much for your presentation. So I'm concerned about this because we see it in other areas, specifically in the city of Las Cruces, and I think it's just not a good use of our resources, right? So what sort of things have you done to communicate with the system to try to mitigate that? It seems like we would maybe reach, like, do we have a barnyard program or something in that area where we could contract with the individual so that we can, and I get it, I get why we're doing that, but just doesn't seem like systematically that's the best use of our resources to have county and or city officials, ACOs keep going out, and then someone traps them and takes them back. And I get it, you want to take them back, you want to fix them, right? It's the TNR program, I understand that piece. Then you send them back to the same area because environmentally it's the safest and more humane thing to do. But shouldn't we be looking at other solutions and strategies to address this? I know that's a very loaded question. I get it. I understand that, but it just doesn't seem like it, and I'm not in charge of the ACOs, but it just doesn't seem like a good use of our resources all the way around.
I do know that our officers, when we get someone new that's trapping, or anytime we get someone that's trapping, we do go and we educate and we tell them about the community cat program, the TNR programs, what to expect, and they either tell us, well, we don't want them here because of allergies, whatever issue that they're having with them. And then if they tell us that they don't want them there, we put it in our notes. If they say that that's fine, they could come back. We don't put any notes in, so that way they could go back to where they need to go.
Okay, so based on that, do you have any more data that says this is the second or the third, right, the time that we've had to pick up this animal, and now we're at this place where there needs to be a different tactic placed or solution to the issue?
So if I can answer that, that would be something that we would have to get that data from the shelter.
Okay.
Through their shelter love system. We also have, in addition to, like Brian was saying, we talk to that individual in regards to educational outreach for these different programs. We have in our department the solar, what is it called, ultrasonic, they're the little devices you set out for people that deteriorates cats from, not deteriorates, that tries to get them from stopping from coming to your property. And it's some type of
A deterrent?
yeah, deterrent that, so you can't hear the sound, but they can hear it, and it's supposed to make them not want to come to your property. So we loan those out as well if they want those. We've had people come back and say that they don't work, they don't want them. We've also have the little devices that they can, when they jump on their fences, they can lay them across their fences, and they're little spikes that come up. They're rubber spikes, but they're supposed to make them not want to jump on the fences and things like that, to loan out to individuals. We have all those available to loan to the community as well. Some have gone out, and some have come back where people, do no longer want to use them for whatever reasons. So we have that process that we have for the community as well to help assist with this. And in addition to that, every officer has a cell phone on them. And so when they have new individuals that are trapping that they know they haven't been to this property yet, they call them before they even start heading out to that house and say, okay, this is a process that usually happens with these cats, and it's more than likely going to come back to your house. And this is what we can do. And then they go back out there and they repeat the process to them again. So they're hearing it twice from us the same day. That usually doesn't change the fact that they want us to pick up the animal for whatever reasons.
Sure.
And so that's usually how we're handling this.
Mary Lou, thank you. I know there's a lot of education that's being conducted, right? And I understand the deterrence, but I guess I'd like to see a little more data, right? And then what can we do strategically?
Bless you.
Pardon me, sorry. The allergies and the wind has been a problem for me this week. Excuse me. I just feel like I'm looking at systems, right, and how we interface. And I hear a lot from the public related to this around the TNR. So in order for our TNR program to work, we really have to address all these other issues, right? Have the education, have the deterrence, but I feel there's still some missing parts, and I know this continues to be an issue for that area. We heard a lot about it last month, and I've heard between last month and this month that it continues to be an issue. So I don't want to belabor it. I just feel like if there's anything that the board can do to help, maybe it's through our task force, because the city also has those issues as well. So I appreciate you giving me the floor, Chair, and allowing me a little bit of latitude in this. I don't think that it's completely the board's responsibility, but I'm just sharing my concern about this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your inputs, and thank you, Board Member Ward, for sharing your insights. Go ahead, Board Member Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Ward, I'm just curious, how many, I know I must have missed the discussion last, as I was late to last month's meeting, but have we, in that particular case by the river, has there been some deterrence, or have we worked with the deterrence with that resident to try to minimize that or what they're seeing?
Actually, we sent officers out. I've spoken to her. We've gone out there several times. Clint himself has gone out there and patrolled the area to try to see what there was in the area that is trying to invite the cats. It's by the river, so there's everything available for the cats. It's within 100 yards of the rivers. There was a couple of houses within several houses down that had maybe an inoperable vehicle, that we sent codes out to go take care of the inoperable vehicle. There was a storage area with an open door. We can't make somebody close their storage door. There's no law that precludes that. But we did go in and educate them and say, if you keep your door shut, it's inviting for stray animals, keep it shut, things like that to help, keep these cats away. So we did canvass that area ourselves and talk to, it's not just the one person there, it's several people within that community, because, this person, it was an elderly individual, he passed away, and he had been feeding these cats apparently for some time. And so there's quite a bit of cats. I'm not sure, Brian will know, since he's our caseworker, he's the one handling all the cases. He'll probably know more than me about how many cats we have probably picked up within that area. Maybe you can comment on that, Brian, but how many, Brian?
I think we've probably picked up, I think they said around 30 last time we talked to them, and they had like about 8 to 10 more that they wanted us to pick up.
And so that was confirmed by the shelter, that they had over, maybe Clint can comment on that, maybe 30 gone back out there. So with that process of them going back out there, I know one of the comments that resident had made, and she had complained about as well, is that the city ordinance doesn't allow for TNR to be released within so close of a proximity to the river areas, and that was explained to her that she's not, she resides in the county, not within city limits.
And I think that was going to be, I think, my next point. I think to what Mayor Pro Tem Gondara had kind of mentioned, I think is, in terms of trying to figure out what's our best use of resources. And I think in the county, one of the things that I believe we need to do is go back and revisit our ordinances, because while as a city worked with the task force, I know that was updated last year. We in the county will need to do the same thing, I think, for consistency purposes, as well as just trying to make sure that we're up to date in our practices. So I think that might something we need to take back to the county, is to kind of look back at our ordinances and maybe see how we can update, or where there's updates needed.
Actually, we have already started that process with legal.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. And just so you all know, it was actually at our TNR task force meeting. That's why this all might sound different to you and familiar to us, because we had this conversation at a different meeting. So it wasn't at the board meeting, so just so you know.
Thank you, Chair Karan, for setting me straight. I just go to so many meetings, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's not that you guys missed it. It was a different conversation. Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mary Lou, in taking it to your legal department, are you looking at making it a mirror type ordinance?
As much as we can, we are looking at that. There are some sections and some subsections that we know we need to revise. Of course, the TNR being one of them, community cats, TNR in a whole, that's of course one of the sections. And then we're also looking at the animals killing livestock portion of that, and cockfighting, because it doesn't exist in our ordinance right now. It only exists in the state statute. And so it ties our hands on the enforcement part of it, because we cannot enforce state statute at this point. So we're relying on the Sheriff's Department to take over that part for us. So if let's say for instance, we wanted to enforce an animal killing livestock, we could only go after them for running at large. We can't, if we file a petition under the animals killing livestock, that citation doesn't match the petition we're filing with the courts. So we need to be more consistent with that. So we're going to change that as well.
Well, with the existing ordinances, because there's probably several that would apply, isn't there like a cruelty to animals type ordinance, or isn't there a state of New Mexico law that would cover all of that? It seems to me that there would be, especially since there's just so much open space in this. I mean, it's like the third largest state in the country, and we only have 2 million people populating it. So there's a lot of open space and a lot of animals. So do you know?
Yeah, we do cover animal cruelty in our current ordinance, but doesn't really go into detail in regards to if we wanted to get really detailed on animal, like cockfighting or something like that.
Yeah, but it's when you get too specific, then it becomes a double-edged sword, because then it becomes exclusive for other possibilities for that ordinance to work. But your legal's working on it.
Yes.
And you'll keep an eye on that.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary Lou.
welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And just so I may add to that, cruelty. So we can cite for cruelty, but we could cite only as a misdemeanor due to what we could do. If we know that it's going to be a felony, that's when we call in our sheriff's unit and have them proceed as a felony.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation and sharing and giving us a lot of background on this. Are there any more questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you so much. I would invite the city ACOs to come up. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Members of the board.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the Animal Control Supervisor for the City of Las Cruces. What I'm going to do is present to you our January 22 numbers. So we responded to 456 stray calls for the month of January. Of those, 245 were GOA. GOA meaning gone on arrival. The officer did not have contact with that animal, or they chased it and it went into a desert and they weren't able to capture it. Of those, we apprehended 211 total animals. 160 of those were impounded at the Animal Service Center. Of those, 115 were dogs and 55 were cats. We were successful in field RTOing 41, meaning that those animals are captured by the animal control officer and they were able to be returned back to their rightful owner or a responsible party. We were unsuccessful in field RTOing 25. Those were animals that had some sort of identification, except we weren't able to give it back to their owners. And a slide coming up will show the reasons why. So we had a total of 66 identifiable animals. So here is my 3-year comparison, stray call comparison. Again, like Brian stated, it's going to only show as a dot because we're at the beginning of the fiscal year or the calendar year. So for comparison, there's our 456 stray calls. So a little bit less than last year and way less than 2020. Here is our 3-year field RTO comparison. Again, we were able to RTO 41, which is much greater than the previous 2 Januaries. Here is a new slide at the request of the board. This is our community cat program. Back in November, I was able to get with Central Dispatch, and they were able to create a new call type for us. It's called Cat and Trap, and this is going to be more specific to our community cats program. You'll see, though, that the numbers really don't match between this slide and my previous slide because there are very different call types. This one is specific to cat and trap. However, we could have picked up a cat because it's an animal in custody, or it could have been a bite cat, or it could have been an owner surrender. So it doesn't qualify for this particular data. So we're doing cat and trap basically as the stray cat, the nuisance cat that a citizen wanted to capture. So in my slide, you'll see that we responded to 32 calls for the month of January to a cat in a trap. Of those, 3 were identified as a community cat, meaning they had ear-tipped, microchip, the requirements for a community cat, and the officer was able to release them in that same area. And my next slide is the reasons for citizens owner releasing their animals. 10 were for the owner not being able to care for them. 6 were because of aggression either towards people or other pets. 1 was a dog euthanasia request due to its age. 1, the owner was unable to keep in the yard or to care for. Next is a dog because it was injured during another dog attack. 1 was the owner was unable to provide medical treatment for it. And finally, 3 were owner released for signs of aggression. They were attacking the children in the household. And here are our reasons for that we were unable to field RTO. 6 were the owner was deceased, and the next of kin, the family member, the daughter, would not take the dogs in. 13, there was no contact by phone or at the residence, and you'll see in my notes that 1 chip was, the address was in McAllen, Texas, and the other one, we couldn't get a hold of the registered owner, so it was had to be taken to the Animal Service Center for treatment. And then 5, the microchip was not registered, meaning it had no phone number, no registered owner. And finally, 1, because the animal owner was out of town and they couldn't make it, they couldn't meet with the animal control officer to take it before it got to the Animal Service Center. And you'll see that 1 where it comes out the chip was registered in McClellan. This is something that we're really, really pushing for, is if citizens were to update their microchip information, this dog may have, the family may have transferred him from McAllen, Texas to Las Cruces, but as far as the microchip is concerned, it was still registered to that McAllen, Texas address. So it's kind of a, not a hindrance, but that animal could have gone home rather than to the Animal Service Center if that microchip information would have been updated. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Jimenez. I really appreciate you adding that cat question. So I do have 2 specific questions, one related to that slide 5, I think, or... So I'm just trying to think about what this will look like going forward since you've provided to us. So 3 were already sort of designated as TNR community cats. The other 29, I assume, are then going to end up they're going to go to the bottom, right? So we would expect, if we are successful in our TNR program, that the number on the top may remain the same, but the number on the bottom will keep increasing? Is that sort of what we're hoping for?
Madam Chair, and I think what we need to keep in mind is that the TNR program and the community cat program are brand new.
Yeah.
I saw one of the questions that was posed to Officer Halsey is why are they having so many redundant calls to the same area? And I think that's part of the reason, is that the TNR program and the community cat program are brand new. So we are going to have to go back to that same area until they all get microchipped, ear-tipped, vaccinated, spayed and neutered. And then they stop producing offspring, and then we'll have a solid number. That's going to be 3, 5, maybe 10 years down the road. But until then, we're going to continue to have those redundant calls to that same address, and that number may even go up. I believe that next month for February, just looking at preliminary numbers through Central Dispatch, through our calls, that number is going to go up as far as cat and trap calls. But the number is going to stay the same as far as community cats released, because we're not there yet. We're trying to get there, but we're not there yet. And that, again, that's going to be something that we see a progression over time.
But no, that's great. I think it'll be a good place for us to watch, you know,
Yes.
and a good measure for us to see. And then my other question is related to the microchip thing. There isn't a sort of a universal way for people to change their microchip status, is there?
Madam Chair, from what I understand, the dog owner or animal owner is required to call that microchip company and update their information. Whether that can be done through the Animal Service Center or directly through the manufacturer or the distributor of the microchip, I'm not positive about, but I know those are at least 2 options right there.
Which, I mean, is kind of a bummer, because getting the microchip, if you don't know the microchip company, you don't know the address, that requires an interface with an ACO or an animal agency that has a scanner. And so I wish that I could go get a time machine and go back 15 years when we started doing microchipping and make it a universally a universal system of recording it. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify if there was a way that we could tell people, go to this website and update your address so that we can make sure, but there isn't one. So that's an unfortunate.
Madam Chair, and to expand a little bit more on that, every ACO has like a placard. So the microchip numbers are unique to the manufacturer and to that distributor. Some start with A000, some start with 999, and then a unique number is given to that animal. So every distributor and manufacturer has that unique series. So because of that, we're able to pinpoint who distributed and who's the manufacturer of that microchip company, of that microchip. So we're able to help them if need be. And I'm sure the Animal Service Center has that same ability.
And I appreciate you guys helping. I just wish there was a way that didn't have a cost, like an effort-related cost for folks to do that. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you so much, Supervisor Jimenez. I really appreciate it, and thank you for adding that graph. Other questions from the board? Board Member Sanchez and then Flores.
Madam Chair, and I think it's just to kind of comment to what you're saying, because I agree. I think, but not. I don't think knowing who. I think on top of knowing who the manufacturer is, I think a lot of times when we're moving, the last thing that goes to your mind is, and unfortunately, not the pet. I mean, the pets, you're caring for them, but I think it's their microchip, and I wonder if, and I think. I had made a thought or a suggestion, which was, I don't know if, and I think this would go for all maybe utilities or stuff, that if there's like a checklist that can be like, did you also do this? Did you forget to do that? Like just as a reminder, because I think that was honestly the last thing I thought about when I moved here, and we had one of my cats ran away. And I mean, I don't know where he went. We never found him at the shelter. We didn't find him. I think he found a new home with somebody. But like I said, I think that was the last thing I thought about was the microchip.
Yes.
And now I know, I think where we have the technology with where we can, I guess now you register and you get an email, and I think that's a reminder, and that makes it easier. But I think back then, when I had originally adopted my cat in 2005, it was, that was still all new, and I didn't think about it. So I don't know if there's a way that maybe, and I don't know if, because there's so many different utilities, but I think the utility is something that if we could find a way to use the utilities as a reminder when they go check in with changing or setting up new service, hey, maybe here's like a little guide, or maybe you forgot to do this, because I think that would be a great reminder to remind people, hey, don't forget about your pets, or, if anything else they can think of that they may want to register or change or do. So, but anyways, I just wanted to share that, because I think, like I said, I think that's just something like when you have a huge list of everything, sometimes that gets overlooked.
No.
But I appreciate your comment is exactly on point, because, like I said, looking back at my cat, I wish I would have updated the microchip information.
I'm about to make a joke, which I realize is not appropriate in this setting, but there's a good chance he's living in a van down by the river. For the record.
But no joke. I swear. When we've taken walks around the neighborhood, we're like, oh God, that looks like him, and like we're like. We don't want to be the crazy, like, random stranger going next to somebody's yard trying to, like, call their cat and be like, is that you? But, no, we've seen, and that's what we've made us wonder. But, I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the joke.
I think that's a great idea, and I think we can talk with folks about that possibility. So, Board Member Flores, please.
Madam Chair, may I, before we move on?
Please.
Board Member Sanchez, and I think what happened there is years ago when we were doing the pet licensing, it was an annual requirement, so it kind of made it easy. And now that we're doing the microchipping, which is a one-time deal, it's in the animal permanently, it requires a little bit of work as for the part of the animal owner if there's any changes. And I think, again, comparing it to the pet licensing and the microchipping, the work was already done with the microchipping. It's injected. It's permanent. It's going to be there forever. But now the work falls back on that dog owner or animal owner to update that information if there's any life changes.
No, absolutely. And I think but I think, like like I said, I think what I've noticed with new pets is like when I get the email, now they use it as the companies as marketing, like, oh, buy your pet a tag and buy them this and buy them that. But at the same time, it's the reminder that it's there, like, oh, I have this is who my company is, and so I can go in and log in and update the information. And at the time, there wasn't there, and I don't know how many animals. I don't know how many people even get those. I just know that's me for my own case. But yeah, absolutely, it is absolutely on the owner. And how do we remind them that is, because it's I think. A lot, when it comes to pets, that's the one thing we see, and I think that's a common theme, is that unfortunately we see, and I think the Animal Service Center, the ACOs see, is sometimes there's that lack of ownership by the people or trying to make sure they're truly taking care of their pets. So, absolutely. Thank you so much for your comments.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Gino, Officer Jimenez. In so far as an animal being registered somewhere else based on the microchip, is there any way that you can contact McAllen, for example, and track down the information on the owner, or have them contact the owner since they have the information, a telephone number, for example? Is that possible?
Madam Chair, Board Member Flores, the officers have gone through all of that by the time they've come to this point. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we really don't have the contact information for, let's say, McAllen Animal Control or that county or anything like that. Majority of these, to be honest with you, are our nighttime, our night shift, because the other departments have already shut down for the day or closed down for the day. They don't work the same schedule we do. These are where we're finding the majority of those. In the daytime shift, we're able to hold on for the dog a little bit longer. We're able to make a second attempt before that animal goes up to the Animal Service Center. But as far as your question, I believe that nationwide, once an animal is microchipped, that animal registration is entirely up to the pet owner. So they may have done it this initial time, but they didn't follow up to show that they had possibly moved to Las Cruces.
Okay, so if my dog gets out and we can't find her, but someone else in the world finds her and she's microchipped, would they be able to trace me back as the owner based on that microchip, irrespective of where she's found?
Board Member Flores, absolutely.
Okay.
Let's just say, for example, I'm just hypothetically, you're back home in LA. You take your pet home with you and she escapes for some reason, and somehow LA County Animal Control gets custody of her. They're going to scan the animal, the microchip is going to come back, and it's going to come back to the information that's registered to that microchip. It could be your daughter, it could be your son, it could be your husband. But whoever's information is registered on that microchip is who the animal control officers are first going to attempt to contact.
Okay, so, pardon me.
And usually there's an emergency contact. So for example, it's registered to you, but you're unavailable, there's always that secondary contact person, name and phone number.
Okay, so you can track down the owner that way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then the other is, I know I was taking care of my dog for about 4 years before my son finally said, okay, she's yours. And he wouldn't surrender the microchip because it was his dog, even though he's living on the other side of the Atlantic, across the pond, as they say. And but he finally surrendered. So Frank Bryce, I called him and he came over right away and microchipped Dee Dee. And so we do have people who actually, it was wonderful that he came to the home because he could see that she lived there. It wasn't just like a random someone dropping in and maybe it's a stolen dog or something, a stolen pet. But so I think that those are two remedies there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
And my understanding is many organizations where you adopt animals from put themselves as the emergency contact, and so if there's a secondary sort of issue, the dog is, they can't get a hold of you because you've changed your phone or something, it will go, and I know of the Las Cruces organizations that do this, most of them put themselves so that they can go back and follow up with the animal so that it's not completely without a reliable contact relatively, so that's also a backup, I think that's really works pretty well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Jimenez. Any other, oh, go ahead, Board Member Ward, please.
As we discussed earlier, we're working on updating our ordinance right now. So listening to this, and I'm glad this came up because this is jotting something new for us on our ordinance. We do have microchipping in our ordinance. So this is the perfect opportunity for us to put in some verbiage and some language, and of course with legal's blessing, to add that, we talk about a working microchip in the ordinance, but we can put some verbiage in there saying that it needs to be an updated working microchip upon moving to the, whatever location you're moving to. It needs to be updated within X amount of time, just like with a driver's license or something else. It needs to be updated with a certain amount of time. That might be something that we can do in our ordinance. And then once we go and we scan an animal and it's not updated, we can do that enforcement because it hasn't been updated. And we can look at it on that aspect. In connection with that, before this all rolls out, like when our ordinance rolls out, we always look at the educational aspect of things, like the county has the free spay and neuter program with the vaccinations, the microchipping. This all goes hand in hand. We go into the communities and we educate. When we educate you on your violations, we also bring resources out to you to come into compliance. This is the perfect opportunity for that. So this, I think, once this ordinance is finally on its final draft and approved and ready to go, I think this would be the perfect opportunity for that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's a great idea. I'm glad that we're thinking about that as just another check and communicating with people and making sure that we're getting folks to do that. So thank you. Again, any other questions from you all? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Jimenez, I appreciate your presentation. Director Thacker, please. Thank you again.
Good morning, Madam Chair, ASCMV Board. My name is Clint Thacker. I'm the Director of the Animal Services Center, Mesilla Valley, here to give you the January 2022 report. So currently at the Animal Center, as of yesterday, 424 animals, breaks it down to 333 dogs and 91 cats at the center. Our intake for January, was dogs 429 and cats was 218 with 4 other. And again, those others could be, they're anything other than dogs and cats. There's a list of our transfers. In other words, they are the rescue organizations. So as you look through that list, you're going to see a lot of local organizations. And like I said before, that it really does take a village, and this just proves that. We ended up with 174 rescues that went out in just the month of January. Some of our returns that we have, and this is kind of a high month, I want to say, with having the 10 there. But in dogs, we have 6, and cats, we have 4. Again, with any of the behavior or lifestyle changes, we have Rough to Ready program that we mentioned. We have food assistance if they need some type of financial assistance, veterinarian assistance, shots, things like that we do offer. So, but sometimes people just don't want to take on that responsibility any longer. Okay, our outcomes for January. In adoptions, we had 24%. Reclaims was 13%. Rescues was 26. Community cats was 19.6. And our euthanasia was 14.9, with overall live release rate of 84.7%. Our euthanasia reasons, again, aggressive behavior dog has taken the new highest reason for that. Again, it used to be, remember the feral cats, but that's no longer because we were able to trap, neuter, return to that great community cat program that we have. So I believe it's always going to be these two. These are our number 2 and 3 reasons. The medical respiratory issues, and the TX is treatments. So those are animals that were given the treatments, but they didn't respond to those treatments, so they had to be euthanized. Our volunteer program continues to excel. We currently have overall 713 hours that were done in January. These volunteers are doing amazing things. Everything from doing, our goal, I believe this weekend is to do a dog walk of over 100 dogs is the goal, to get out of the center and go for a walk. We have close to 55 people that are volunteers for the dog team. It says 44 there, but I know in our meeting we had on Tuesday that she was hoping for 55 or 50 to come. Everybody walked 2 dogs, and then they get pictures taken while they're outside. And then those pictures are updated on their profile that are online. Cat teams are amazing. Again, we just put the word out, see if anybody wants to come and clean cats or help clean cats in the center. And people came, surprisingly enough. So that is amazing. They also assist a lot in the adoption places as well. And then our current active volunteers is 174. We hit another spike on our visitors in January of 22. We broke the 1,000 mark. And our appointment percentages were really, I believe, were really nice. The 95% of the 166 appointments in January were kept, and just over half of those finalized in adoption, so 57%.
Madam Chair.
Board Member Ellens, did you want to wait till the question section? Can we wait till the question section to get there?
No, I just want a quick answer. How are the Saturday appointments going, where they're open to the public without reservation?
Friday and Saturday are those, and they're going okay. I mean, it's not a huge, ginormous turnout, but I believe it was an accreditation to bumping us over the 1,000 mark for the visitors.
Okay. Because we got another letter,
Yes, we did.
a very long letter.
Thank you.
So here is that information that you want to look at, Mr. Ellens, or Commissioner Ellens. So the total walk-in groups was 104. So just to recap, so the board and also the people watching understand, we have Friday and Saturday from 1 to 3, people can come in and see, very limited, the animals that are up for adoption in a specific kennel that's right there off the front office. So we had 104 groups walk in, and that was on average 13 per day came in. So a total adoptions of 23. And I'm not sure what the average per day means, because 104 averaged for 2 is not 13. We'll have to look at that and tell you. But it resulted from 23 adoptions that came in. So 22% of the people coming, or the groups coming in, were total in adoptions.
I think there were 8 days where you had walk-ins, so
Okay.
8 times.
Our website views, 37,000. And that's about the average of what we're getting through this time. Facebook views, this one is really confusing. we'll have a high month, a low month, high month, low month, and it goes in that cycle. So we're trying to figure out what is going on. Is it dropping off people's Facebook views or off their, what's it called? Their feed.
The
Thank
news
you.
feed.
Yeah, their feed, and then when something comes on or a special, they see it, they click on it, and then it comes back on their feed. So we're looking at that to see what and why and what specials were being done in June versus July and so on. And these are our two pets of the week, Stewie and Indigo. Any questions?
Board Member Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clint, just and I know going back on the Facebook, I'm just curious, and just a thought, and I don't have any data to back it up, but is there any way to look at also the number of posts and also the number, I think like you mentioned, like the live videos that come up, just to kind of see and be able to maybe benchmark? Because I think, like you're exactly like you said, right? I think I get a notification whenever you go live from the ASCMV, and you're doing a walkthrough, or even if it's not live, at least I have the notification and I can still see the video later. I'd be curious to see if maybe that's what attracts the people, because I think that's one of the things that I think we hear often is exactly the point you said. It just gets buried on newsfeed, but if you're live and it's a video, man, people will stop, at least interact and see what's the video all about, what's going on, what's Clint up to today. So, I'd be curious to learn more and see if that's what's driving those posts.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. Any other questions? We're in the questions phase, yes? Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much, Director Thacker.
Thank you. I believe now we're into the annual report.
I think we're going to do really quickly committee reports,
Okay.
although I don't know that we have a ton. I think you can probably stay up here, I guess I should say, but I do. The Finance Committee, I talked with, do you want to come on up? Sorry. Clint, you can take a seat for a minute while we do if you want. Committee reports. Thank you, Josh. I didn't know that you guys had a presentation, so please. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel, and on behalf of the Finance Department of the City of Las Cruces, I would like to present the unaudited financials for the period ended January 31st, 2022. First off, we're going to look at our statement of net position. In the general fund, we had cash of $1,494,247, receivables of $205,636, giving us total assets of $1,699,883. We had liabilities of $53,277, revenue collected in advance of $197,008. So that left us with a total unassigned fund balance of $1,449,598. Looking at our changes in net position, we had total revenue for the period of $2,307,763 and total expenditures of $1,685,285. So that gave us a positive net change or net increase in fund balance of $622,478 through the period. Now, if we look at our budget to actual changes in net comparison, the total revenue of $2.3 million is 60.1% of the budget, and the total expenditures of $1,685,000 are 43.9%. At this time, we're looking at about 58.3%, so it's nice to see that our revenues were slightly above that and our expenditures were well below that. Looking at the monthly revenues versus expenditures graph, again, we can see that it tends to be that the trend is that our revenue tends to be just slightly higher than the expenditures, and that's continued this month as well. Looking at our total expenditures, again, our total expenditures were $1,685,285. Of that, 50% was salary, 15.8% was benefits, 18% was services, 4% were for temporary services or use of temporary employees, and then 2% insurance, 7% supplies, and 1% in repairs and maintenance, other, and capital expenditures. And for that, I will stand for any questions.
I have one quick question, just looking at the detailed report. Thank you for your presentation, Josh, I appreciate it. And it does look like, and this might also be a question for Clint, grant revenue is lagging behind what would be the expected amount, and I'm wondering if that's specific grants that are just slow to pay, or if that's related to not getting specific grants, and if that's going to be a shortcoming as the year moves on.
A possibility with that is the fact that several of the grants we've received are grants received in advance. So we actually receive the revenue in advance, but we can only recognize that when we have expenditures. And so it may be the reason why we're seeing a slowdown is that it's possible that there's just a timing issue between when the expenses are reported, when we recognize them as part of the grant, and then when we recognize the revenue.
Okay, thank you. That helps me understand where what might contribute to that. Any other questions from the board? No, hearing none. Thank you, Josh, very much. I appreciate it. Okay, just very quickly to address the other two committee reports. To address the executive committee reports, because of a scheduling problem on my end, the executive committee did not meet this month, but we've corrected our scheduling problem and we'll be back at it next month. So thank you for bearing with me on that. The facilities update, Board Member Gandara is not here, so I will defer a facilities, if Clint is up for making some.
I make a comment that was the same day that we had our big cold snap, and a lot of the facilities were closed half a day, so that did not go forward.
Okay.
That meeting.
So that meeting, thank you very much. And now you can stay, please, and if you would be up for sharing the action item, which is Resolution 2022-03, to accept the FY 2021 financial audit report. I believe I would entertain a motion first before you would do the presentation.
Are you talking, I'm sorry, is he doing the presentation on the annual report?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Well, there's two separate things.
Yeah, there's two separate
the audit
things.
And an annual report. Audit's going to be handled by Josh and the audit company.
Yeah, and that's item 6. We're still on item 4, subsection C, and after the semicolon, there's the annual report.
So I went to the committee reports too soon.
Yes.
You guys
Fine.
should
But that's
check me
okay.
on that. Okay, thank you.
I'm
We're on
okay not doing it.
the annual report. Thank you, sorry.
Can't do it now.
About that.
She forgot all about
I forgot.
the abandoned child.
Go ahead, please. Sorry about that, Clint.
You're completely okay, Madam Chair, not a problem. We're going to show you today, I'm pleased to present to you the 2021 annual report for the Animal Service Center in Mesilla Valley. I want to give a special thank you to Bernice Navarro, who gathered all the information. She tracks all this information through spreadsheets throughout the year and then compiles this report. She does it under, while everybody else is also trying to do all of their annual reports. She gets information from all of the staff while they're still trying to do their daily and also annual and monthly numbers and works. What she does is invaluable to me, and I appreciate her so very much for putting this together, mostly at the last moment, so I appreciate that. First, to discuss the intake statistics. In other words, and I'm going to be very elementary here when I talk, so those that are watching this or listening in the future understand what I'm saying. So intake is animals that are coming into the center. For the city, it is 4,071 is the total. Our highest form of intake from the city was from animal control. The second was unrestrained from the public, and then third was owner surrender. And that mirrors also the county. So the county's total intake is 3,810. Again, the highest form or method is unrestrained from the animal control officers, and the next highest is unrestrained from the public, and then owner surrender. Total combined, 7,988. So nearly 8,000 animals came into the center in 2021. The largest form of intake was, again, from animal control, but the number from owner surrender and unrestrained from the public, and this alarms me every single year, and this is something that is on the our action plan, is the owner surrender number and the unrestrained from the public. That owner surrender number is ridiculously high. It is only number 3 by, I believe, like, if I did the math before, but I can't remember, it's like around 200 animals is all.
Madam Chair?
Board Member Ellens?
Clint, what does unrestrained from the public mean?
Mr. Commissioner, that means that an individual in the public was out walking and they found a dog and they brought it to the ASCMV, or found a cat.
And unrestrained from animal control?
That means animal control brought it in.
Okay.
Thank you. And then owner surrender means that owner no longer could own or wanted the animal, so they brought it to the center. So here's our comparison through 2009. So you see that the nearly 8,000 animals is lower than what it was previously. However, I'm worried that 2022, if we don't do something differently, is going to be etching back up to that 10,000 mark, which is where we do not want to be. Here's our monthly intake. As you can see, it is a cycle. In the colder months, we get less. Summer months, we have more. Dogs always, or continue to be, our highest intake. Over half of our animal impounds were dogs. The other close 42% were cats. And then scattered in between there are the small ones. Wildlife, avian is birds. Rabbits, pocket pets is like mice or guinea pigs or hamsters, and then reptiles and some livestock. Now, these are the stats of the animals that left the center, or how they left the center. As you can see, transferred to rescue, we had 31.7% of all of our outcomes went out into rescue. Euthanized is 20%. Adoption is 19.7%. Return to owner, which is owners that came and redeemed their animals from the center, is at 12%. Community cats is almost 11.5%. I'm expecting that percentage to go up, that we have a full year of community cat programs running in 2022. The expired in center, 2%. Expired in foster, 1%. And then there's some missing and some wildlife releases there. So the adoption comparison, the actual number of adoptions is the lowest we've ever seen in the ASCMV since 2008 when records were kept. However, you know, I'm a big person on numbers and percentages. That number really alarmed me when I look at that's the lowest we've ever had. But when I look back with our yearly reports that go back to 2012, if I remember right, it was 19.7% is what we had in 2021 of adoptions. If you look back from 2012 all the way up until 2017, it was all within that 20%. It was 19, it was 20, it was 21, and then in 2019, the number shot up to 28% of adoption rate. So and then in 2020 was also a high 20 month, but that was because we didn't have a lot of animals coming in. So we're still percentage-wise in the area, but we're looking at ways that can increase for sure. Again, we always do more dog adoptions than cat adoptions. So 65% of all of our adoptions were for dogs. 34% for cats. Our transfer number, as you can see, 2021, 2,532 animals went out for adoptions. A live release rate. We have 3 years up here so you can get a good comparison of them. 2021, 83.6% for dogs and 72.4% for cats. Cats is usually in that 70% percentile. As you can see in cats, in 2019, it was almost 80. We're almost there. And so total live release rate altogether was 78.8% for the Animal Service Center. The live release rate is the rate of animals that left the center alive. So 78.8% of our animals left the center alive in 2021, 83.6% in 2020, and 80.9% in 2019. Euthanasia breakdown, again, the number one reason in 2021 for euthanasia was feral cats. The next one down is respiratory signs. And again, the TX means treated. So we already treated those animals. They did not respond to the treatment, so they were euthanized. I do want to go back. Maybe it's the next one. All right, here's the next one. So you can see in 2021, we euthanized 1,612. But I want to just point out that it continues to go down throughout the years. I cannot imagine even being in 2015 and euthanizing 3,000 animals, but especially in 2008 when this started, of euthanizing over 10,000 animals. So I'm grateful for where we have come from, because we learned from our past, and 1,612 is too much for us, but we are a far cry from what we used to be as we continue to learn. We continue to have great public service and outreach programs. Our surgical center is one of them. In trap, neuter, return, we did, and this is all surgeries that we've done, a total of 4,030. Just a phenomenal number. Remember, we have limited veterinarian staff, and we also have, this is all with limited veterinarian surgical staff as well. But we had 1,311 trap, neuter, return surgeries. We had 889 shelter surgeries. These are animals that are property of the center and that needed to be sterilized prior to adoptions. And then 824 adoption surgeries, and those are animals that were adopted but needed to have surgery. Rescue, those are animals that would go out to rescue if they were sterilized, or that went out to rescue and were sterilized, was 389. SNAP, that is the spay-neuter action program. That is our public spay-neuter portion that we implemented earlier this year, or last year. And we did want to bring back public spay and neuter because it was suspended for a period of time. But we wanted to do it in a way that would incorporate or bring in some of the low income. So we partnered with SNAP to do that. So 304 surgeries for that. Return to owner is our next with 184. Those are owners that came and got their animals from the ASCMV. They redeemed them, we call. And the law states that if it's the second impound, I believe in a year, they have to either purchase a sterilization voucher or they have to have the animal sterilized. So that is why that option is there. So 184 animal owners took advantage of our reduced cost sterilizations, and then 129 other surgeries, and that could be anything from hit by car, amputations, a dew claw removal, any other injuries that need to be done. Total visitors, 8,652 came to the ASCMV in 2021, as our sign-in forms indicate. Facebook views, again, a little bit of the up and down we're going to be looking into. Our website views are continuous and around average of 37,000 website hits each month. We do have a lot of programs that we continually push throughout the year. We have an incredible volunteer program we're going to get into here in a little bit. We have articles that go out in the newspaper. We get a lot of feedback from those. We're grateful for our grant writer that completes those. We have Pet of the Weeks that go out to radio stations and the newspapers. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. I'm particularly proud of our staff and what we do with the drive-through clinics that we do throughout the year. We did 2 of them. This last year, we've microchipped over 500 animals and literally saw thousands of animals and people. We do radio interviews, and we also have conversations at the center where people can post questions to me the first Friday of every month. Our volunteer program is a huge success. I love our volunteer program coordinator on how she handles this. She's having the volunteers work closely with the ASCMV, but also on their own, meaning that they can go and they can do a program all on their own. They're not hinging on how many of the ASCMV staff have to be there. They do adoption programs. They also come and help us out and help set up at many, many places. So as you saw, over 100 of the volunteers are active and love having them. And our volunteer coordinator has reached out to some great places between the college, the medical college in town, Boys and Girls Clubs, just great places, and getting some fantastic people that love animals. Those are our finances. For those that do not know, the JPA, or the ASCMV, is a JPA, meaning a joint powers agreement, which means two groups got together and said, let's create something from both of us, and that's how the Animal Service Center Mesilla Valley came to be. The city does do all of our finances, so we follow their policies, which is why Josh is up here. He's a city employee, talks to us about our finances. The budget for the ASCMV runs on a fiscal year with the city, and that's from July to June, and that is our fiscal standings there. And that concludes our annual report. I'll stand for any questions.
Board Member Ward, please.
Clint, can you go to slide 5? I just have a question. So when you talk about county intake and you talk about including Anthony, Hatch, Mesilla, Sunland Park, White Sands, now I know Anthony itself and well, let's just say Anthony itself has their own animal control officer. Now, when you include those numbers, are you including the municipality of Anthony itself in these numbers? Or are you just, what are you including?
Yes, it's included in there. Bernice is shaking or nodding her head, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. You're good? Okay. I had a quick question. You mentioned on slide probably like 15-ish, if I see it, I can identify it again. No, maybe it's on the spay and neuter period, so maybe a little bit further down.
That one?
No, total surgeries, perhaps? Sorry, I'm pointing like you can see what I'm pointing at. So I'm curious about something that you said while this was up, specifically about the law suggesting that if they are impounded twice, they'll be sterilized?
No, they have to purchase a sterilization certificate. So they can decide whether to redeem that certificate or not, but they have to at least purchase one.
So, but after one impound, they don't have to do that? And is that where is that law?
It's a state.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That helps me understand, because I feel like that's a place where we could, to me, if an animal is stray, that suggests I would infer a level of kind of not as cared for, and so I would think that we would want to intervene as soon as possible in those types of situations, especially if we're doing things like spaying and neutering feral cats. So I feel like that's a place where I would say if it happens once, they should probably have to do that.
And I do understand, Madam Chair, and when I was in Utah, I was part of a team that we worked towards getting this exact same law passed in Utah through the legislation. And the first strike, it was not a go at all. People were saying, well, there's always the oops, there's always the dog ran off without its collar. We need to give people at least one chance to return it. And so that's what we did, and it looks like New Mexico thought the same way, is that there's always that one time. The difference between the community cats is a community cat definition is that it has no sign of ownership. Also, if you look at the percentages of the animals coming in that are redeemed, dogs are redeemed a lot more than cats, so the higher probability of it. So it's kind of that one strike is what they get.
I have to admit that if an animal is unaltered, that already was the strike, and the person gave up their chance to be irresponsible with them not having a collar. So admittedly, I would love if we were more strict on that. But thank you, that helps me understand. Any other questions from the board? Board Member Ellens, please.
Madam Chair, Clint, is the vacancy problem in surgical, has it been solved, or we still have some vacancies?
If I remember right, we currently have one vacancy, and that has been posted, and we're waiting for applicants to be done. That's the only, so it is in the realm of being completed. There's still a vacancy in the surgical department, and that's the veterinarian, or the surgical veterinarian. So we're working on that one.
What's the nature of the vacancy that you're posting?
Well, the posting is a veterinarian surgical assistant is the one that is posted.
Does that require a veterinarian degree?
No, sir, it does not.
What kind of training is required then?
I believe the job description states that like a couple of years of knowledge of surgical experience in the veterinarian setting. So they prep the animal for surgery. They get the animals or the instruments all sterilized. So they have to know that process and understand it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you very much, Clint. I appreciate it, and I apologize again for mixing up the agenda. Now, I believe that we're moving on to item 6, action items. Josh, thank you for coming up. Thank you again, Clint, for that presentation. And Bernice, thank you so much for collecting all that data. I know it's a lot for you, so thank you for supporting that. Go ahead, please, Josh.
So once again, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel, and once again, on behalf of the Finance Department, I would actually like to introduce our external auditor, Mr. Chris Garner. He's coming to us via the telephone. I'll be handling his presentation materials, but he will be speaking. Hopefully, are you on, Chris?
Madam Chair, I have to leave at 11.
Okay.
And will we have a quorum for
Yes, we'll still have a quorum.
this? Okay, thank you.
4. So, yes, we'll still have a quorum. Thank you. This is the worst seance ever. I'm not sure. Are you there, Chris? Chris, right? I think we're working on figuring out the technical difficulties.
Can you hear anything?
Yeah. We almost had you for a minute there, Chris.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. What we have here on this presentation is the highlights from the exit conference that we had back in November at the end of the audit. And so I'm just going to go again over some of the highlights. So Josh, if you'll move to the next slide. This first slide talks about the results of the audit and the report that we issued. And so as we went through the audit, and we issued what we call an unmodified opinion. In essence, as you can see, I put on that, on the slide, a clean opinion. So the opinion that we issued is, in essence, the type of report that you want to receive, and it states that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with the standards that we have to follow. So this is the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can give, and so this is the type of report that you want to receive. Josh, we go to the next slide. This next slide is talking about what we call a yellow book audit. In New Mexico, the state audit rule requires that we do a yellow book audit, which expands the type of testing that we as your auditors have to do throughout the audit. So what happens is with just regular auditing standards, we could take one transaction, get an understanding of it, and we don't have to test that control process. Well, with a yellow book audit, we have to pick samples, test internal controls, and then what we do is in this report, we talk about how we've expanded our testing and what we're doing differently, and then we have to report our findings. And as you can see, we did not have any findings as we completed that yellow book testing. In New Mexico, the state auditor has expanded the type of yellow book audit that has to be tested. So in New Mexico, we're required to look at about, there's approximately 15 other items, things like travel and per diem, use of credit cards, procurement. So there's an expanded amount of transactions in New Mexico that we have to test. And the one thing in New Mexico, too, that the state audit rule does is it takes the threshold of findings, in essence, down to the ground level. So in New Mexico, if we have any exceptions, whether it's a significant exception or it's not, it doesn't matter. All findings have to be reported in your audit. And based upon our testing, we did not have any exceptions, even with the expanded items that we had to look at for the single audit. If we go to the next slide. In this slide, we are, as your auditors, required to report any difficulties encountered in performing the audit. And as you can see on this slide, we did not have any. The audit went extremely smooth. When we ask questions or for supporting documents, that information is given to us in a timely manner. It was given to us in good order so that we could complete the audit process. So the reason I left this slide in the presentation is I think it's really important for the board to know that the finance department is maintaining your records well so that they could respond to our questions, respond to the supporting documents that we have to be given, and it just shows that your financial records are being maintained in a good order. And so, again, I think that's really important for the board to know that. If we go to the next slide, this talks about audit adjustments. And the reason I think this is actually one of the more important communications that we as your auditors have to make. If we're going in and having to make lots of adjustments, as you're making financial decisions, as Josh presented, your financial information earlier, if we're making lots of adjustments, you would maybe have a little bit of hesitancy relying on those numbers. But as you can see here, we had no audit adjustments. All the numbers were correctly reported. And again, I think what that does is that lets the board know that you can feel confident as you're reviewing those financial information throughout the year and that you can rely on those numbers and feel good about it. We go to the next slide. talking about findings, again, I want to emphasize in New Mexico, we have a higher standard that we have to look at. The state auditor has specific items that they expand that auditing standards don't require us to look at. And even with the expanded populations and expanded items that we have to test, and with that lower threshold of findings that we have to do in New Mexico, again, if we have any exceptions, whether it rises to a more problematic finding or not, it doesn't matter. All findings have to be reported. And even with that level, we did not have any findings as we tested the internal controls and we tested the transactions related to your organization. So as a result of this year and last year, there were no findings for either year. If we go to the next slide, this is just a financial highlight. As you can see, the expenses have remained over the last since 2018 have remained fairly consistent, but your revenues did increase about $500,000 from last year. And what that increase really relates to is the City of Las Cruces increased their contributions to the organization between 2020 and 2021. So that's really the reason for the increase in revenue. But again, your expenses have remained fairly consistent. They did decrease a little bit over the last 3 years, so your net income has gone up over the last couple of years. We go to the next slide. I'll entertain any questions.
Josh, thank you for your support, and Chris, thank you for the audit. Are there any questions from the board members who are here? Board Member Flores, please.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you, Josh, for keeping everything to the high standards that New Mexico requires. It's above the normal auditing processes that are taken by accountants nationally. So that's definitely a feather in your cap. So thank you very much. And thank you, Clint, for keeping the expenditures at the same level, even though we have higher revenues. And thank you, Bernice. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none. Again, Josh, thank you so much for presenting this and keeping us on track in this way.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the fiscal year 2021 financial audit report.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Sanchez.
Second by Flores.
Second by Flores. May we, any further discussion? Then I would ask for a roll call vote, please, on approving the 2021 financial audit report, resolution 2022-03.
Board Member Ward?
Yes.
Board Member Ellens? Board Member Flores?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just correct what thing that I said before is I got a text from our manager's office manager, and she stated that it is the first impound unsterilized animal. We charged a $25 sterilization deposit or certification fee on the first impound. So I was incorrect in speaking. And it's every time the animal's impounded. So, and then they get the money back when they show, it can go towards the sterilization with us if they choose to do it with us, or they can get the money back after they show proof of sterilization within 30 days.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I also have one more thing I'd like to share with the board and also with the public about walkthroughs, public walkthroughs, if that's okay. I don't know when you'd like me to do that.
I think now, before we start into public input, we also have one other business item that we need to get to, so go ahead.
Okay. So we did receive a letter, and it was regarding our walkthroughs and why we currently cannot do walkthroughs right now. And I wanted to lay this out and show you the reason why. So I want to show you what before it was is we had the animal control officers would pull in here, and we had an area of kennels back here where they would impound the animals. From here, they would go into this kennel, and then they would go into this kennel, and it was like almost like a snake pattern. Okay, so the animals would move each kennel each day, go down, because we needed to have an empty kennel to clean. So it would move, it would B to C, and then they'd end up over here in L and S. And these two were the only kennels available for public walkthroughs since I have started working here in 2017. So people would come into the lobby, they'd say, I want to look at dogs. We'd say, sure. They'd walk through this door, they'd look at the S kennel, then they look into L kennel. Now, if they wanted an entire walkthrough, we would have to have somebody come and meet them, like if they're missing their dog or their cat. Then we would have staff walk them through these areas over here. So that's what it was. However, we have lost this entire area because of construction. There's no longer a gate right here. It's blocked off for construction. Animal control officers now drive this way through our gate. They park here and they impound in our I kennels. Then those animals come into L. So this is a stray holding animal. These animals are not available for adoption. These animals are waiting to be redeemed or for their time to go by. So we do not allow people here. After here, they come into C, and then they go into B, and then they go into A. M is our medical. So if there's any medical item or any medical cases, we like to have them back into medical. Q is our quarantine area. Bites of that nature stay in quarantine, so public is not allowed there. And then R over here is our green roof area that's clear over here. So once people come in and walk, we say right now on Friday and Saturday, you can come and you can see these dogs that are right here in S, because those are the only ones in this area that are available. I have no way to get to get public to come all the way through and see the animals that are available for adoption in A or C. They would have to walk through areas where dogs are out loose, there's needles, the animal control are walking through. I just don't see a way. And also this sidewalk right here, it's a construction fence that borders, and construction is happening right out here. So we can't walk around. They would have to go through the actual center and through these kennels to get to the available dogs in A and B. We have our euthanasia room right here and our dish room. So this isn't me being a stickler or being a jerk, not wanting people to walk through the center. We are going to get there. In fact, when the new center is built, hopefully to be completed between September and January of this year, well, I should say September of 22, January of 2023, that people can come and walk through anytime they want, because if they're indoor-outdoor kennels. And that's going to be the huge advantage of that. So that's currently the situation. We are looking at extending the hours that people can come and walk through, because now that the mandate's been lifted, we have those possibilities. So we're looking at options of increasing the hours that animals can be viewed in S. Another thing, the advantage of the appointments. Animals can be seen online, any animal in the entire center, if they're marked as available, can be seen online. So if there's a dog back in B1, right here, if they want to see it for an appointment for adoption, they just need to call, make an appointment, and we can grab it, and they can meet out here. So that's the advantage of the appointments. Otherwise, the animals, like I said before, that were walked through were just these two kennels. Never have we ever let anybody walk through the center and look at every single kennel that they want to and choose a dog to see since I've been here. So there's a little bit of confusion in the public about open the center back up. Well, that only means where we were in 2019 before we shut down, and that was just these two kennels. Again, we are going to get there, but we need to have patience as we get the right things in place. So I'll answer any questions there may be.
Thank you for that clarification. It does address a number of things, and I appreciate hearing that increasing the number of walkthrough appointments, I do think that also just builds goodwill among people, and so I appreciate that you all are looking to make space for that, even with the restrictions that it's clear a result of kind of both construction and moving and all that you have going on. So I appreciate both aspects of that, and that you clarify this for the
And Madam Chair, we would most likely go to adoption-based appointments anyways with the construction, because again, there's no way to get people through these areas. So we would most likely, even if the COVID-19 pandemic never happened, we probably would have done it anyways for ease of getting animals seen.
And I completely understand that. I also think we're about to have another conversation about geo bonds, and so I think it's really important for us as a city specifically to be able to articulate what this means, what the progress is on the geo bonds, and what that means for the future of how that's going to be. So I appreciate you making that clear and letting us know about the next phases. So are there any other questions from the board about this?
Madam Chair?
Board Member Ellens, please.
Clint, when a person reviews the animals on the website and makes an appointment to come in and see it, is the animal then brought down to what is now the very small public area?
The small public area, like out here?
No, this.
Oh, S?
Yeah.
No, that the animal, if the individual makes an appointment and they can reserve, like say they make an appointment for a dog in B, right here, we meet them outside, and it's in covered play areas out here. We call them get acquainted areas that are back here.
So the individual does not get to go back to these more remote kennels to view the dog?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Board Member Ellens. Board Member Ward, please.
Clint, out of 400 and some odd animals that you have in the facility right now, approximately how many of those dogs are adoptable dogs right now?
I couldn't, probably over 300. I mean, because you have these kennels here that have dogs in them, you have these kennels here that have dogs that aren't available, and then some of our medical cases aren't available because they're under medical watch. But the majority of these kennels, A, B, and C, are all available animals, majority of them.
So I'm just looking if you look in the S kennel.
Oh, I'm sorry, and S. Yeah, the S is available for adoption too.
So S is where the public's allowed and where they're available. So that's a minimal. You can house, 14 animals in there right now? And that's all that they would actually be able to view if they went in for a visit without going on the website and they did just a walk-in. They'd only be able to see 14 animals, is that correct?
No, it's
What's
not.
in there?
In Kennel S, there's 18 kennels.
18.
And we
Okay.
usually have, depending on the size of the dog, there's sometimes 2 dogs per kennel. I know one kennel in there right now has 3 because they're 3 small breed dogs. So there's more than just 14 dogs in there. And we also, when people come in, we also tell them all of our animals are available. We have a QR code that they can scan with their phone, and it takes them directly to our adoptable animals online. And also the individuals that are coming in to do a walkthrough, they also need to do an appointment. So they'll have to stay and wait until we can squeeze them into an appointment based during those 1 to 3.
So just another suggestion, and you might be doing it already. So when an individual comes, let's say they just go into the S area and they don't go any further than that. I don't know if you guys have a kiosk, like a big TV screen or something, with a total screen that's just a rotating of just the other animals in other areas that while they're viewing, they can see other animals in other areas that are up for adoptions that they can come and ask you about with maybe an identification number that they can see that they would not have seen otherwise. Just a suggestion, if you're not
Yeah.
already doing it, you might be.
We started working on that, Mary Lou, and the problem behind it is we would have to have an internet connection with a web page on our TVs to view the adoptable animals, and our TVs currently don't have the web browser on them. And so the other idea would be is, well, we could do almost like a PowerPoint slideshow of available animals, and then you're looking at, and we want to do those for like the long-term animals so people can see them, but then you're looking at continually updating those almost every day. But it has been talked about, and again, it's something that we're looking into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ward, any other questions? Okay, thank you for that update, Clint. I appreciate your responding to the community inputs, so thank you for that. Before we get to public comment, it was brought to my attention, and again, I don't think that Robert's rules allows for a friendly amendment, but there was something on our minutes that suggested that the meeting started at 9 last time, and it actually started at 8:30, and then the meeting was called to order at 9:03, and I think it was probably called to order around 8:33. So if that's a friendly amendment, I don't know. Can we ask Robert about this? Whatever you say, Robert says, I support.
I think Bernice can do a quick change on the minutes.
Okay.
We can handwrite that real quick, and it'll be fine to go through.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Roberts is only, it recommends procedure. There's no law in that regard. But I just didn't want to.
No, I think we can make that note, and so.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Vicki,
pointing
and
that
thank
out.
you, Bernice. It's just that we're so used to meeting at 9, it seems, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item 7, public input. So thank you for those of you who have bared with us from the public. I don't know if there is any public input. Please, sir, any other? I don't seeing one person. Please come up and state your name for the record.
Well, the name's Gary Gale. Just on the microchip issue, when I moved down here from Omaha, Nebraska 17 years ago, in the moving packet that the realtor handed me was a checklist for taking animals, which had microchip, notify your carrier, food, water. It had a whole page of listing, and that might be something we need to speak with the local realtors and maybe get them to, build a packet or to get together, or we help them put something together in their relocation packets, and something maybe to get a hold of like Realtor.com and some of the big realting companies to, try to see if they could, when they give their sales packets or moving packets to the individuals, that is incorporated with the packet, just as in a checklist. And even the title companies, when they give the checklist and go through all that, it's kind of like a reminder. That might be another area to look at too, to maybe enhance the microchip concept of changing your address, your phone number, et cetera, et cetera. It really helped me a lot, because with going through the sales and the moving and everything else, it's, you're taking your animals, but boy, that's the one part of it you just completely is oblivion to. You're just more concerned about getting the cages, the food, the water, what do you need to do, how you're going to transport them, and the microchip just wasn't there. When I saw that on the checklist, it was like, oh wow, okay. So that was an easy thing to do when I moved. So it's something we might want to address to, as I said, the realtor and the moving community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great idea. And I know there are a lot of realtors who are animal advocates, so I think that might be a great other opportunity. So thank you for that comment. Any other public comments? Seeing none, hearing none. We're on to chair and board comments. I'll start with Board Member Ward, and we can work our way down on chair and board comments, please.
I have nothing, thank you.
Board Member Flores, it's your time to comment.
I was busy doing ministerial work. Anyway, my only comment is thank you very much, Clint, for the work you do, Gino, Mary Lou, Bernice, and the public, and Officer Watella. Thank you so much all for doing such a fantastic job. And I think that the audit report said a lot, because you kept your expenses down, revenue was up. So that's a really good show. And thank you so much too, Clint, for your thorough report, annual report. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Board Member Sanchez?
I'm good, thank you, Madam Chair.
Board Member Gandara?
Thank you. I apologize for stepping out. I had to address a safety issue with a business and law enforcement, and so here I am back at the meeting. I'm sure it went well. I read the packet, so I appreciate everybody's work, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I also want to echo the gratitude for keeping this moving, getting us updated, and especially updated data and information in response to the public. So thank you for keeping us on track. I do want to follow up. I know that we have a couple of things, especially related to TNR. We're continuing the conversation. We know that we have to be working with you all collaboratively on that. And Clint, I appreciate your sort of referencing it in your presentation, but I think we can continue to work on that to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for our community. So please, we will be in touch and keep that conversation going. So.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I just have one more thing I need to let you know, the board know, is that the JPA edits that we're working on just went through the second draft yesterday, and we got more, I guess Mary Lou, we were more or less voluntold to get some things finished or get some input on that. So we have another meeting coming up in 2 weeks on the JPA, so that will be draft number 3. So that is in progress going forward.
Thank you. That's the second big project that I think we've been talking about, so I appreciate your update on that as well, and we'll look forward to seeing it as it comes through in its new iteration. All right, hearing none, being at the end of the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Sanchez and seconded in passing by Board Member Flores, if you couldn't hear it. Please, can we take a vote on the adjournment, please?
We don't need to take a vote.
We don't need to take a vote?
No, you're just in
Okay.
motion, and we're good.
Vote with
Thank
your
you.
feet. Thank you. Thank you all.